And it takes a long, long time to build that up.
It does.
But it takes a really short time to break it down.
Yeah.
Really quickly, you can mess up a lot of the work that you put in.
And I feel like that applies to any relationship, not just long distance, but especially long distance.
It's like, yeah, it was like building a house out of like straw. And you built it really, really, really sturdy. But one gust of wind can still knock it down. And yeah, you learn that pretty quickly too.
Yeah.
Hey, welcome back to some extent. Happy Tuesday. How's your week been going?
So busy.
Yeah, it's nice to be back, and the last episode was good.
Yeah, I had fun with Parker. She's the best.
I like the guest episodes much. Like, I like them a lot. Like, I think they just spur a lot of really interesting conversation. It's nice to have a third mind in here.
I agree. It's cool when it's 3 people, and Parker's such an interesting person. And for those of you that haven't checked it out, go to our latest, or I guess our last video posted last week. We interviewed my cousin Parker, and it was really fun.
Yeah. I think it was honestly one of our best episodes so far.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of the way she thinks about life, the way she goes about life is really interesting, and I think a lot of people can be inspired by what she's done and what she's continuing to do.
I agree.
It's cool. Other than that, what have you been up to the rest of the week?
Lots of work and packing, preparing for the move. It's getting pretty close, so I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed with everything going on, but I know if you just do one thing at a time, check it off my to-do list, I feel a little bit better. So that's where I'm at.
No, I can tell a little bit by your vibe that you're a little overwhelmed.
I'm very overwhelmed, but, you know, it'll be fun.
I think it comes with packing and moving. It feels like a daunting task.
It is. Especially because we're going, like, last time I moved, I was going from Boulder to Denver. Now I'm moving states again.
Like halfway across the country.
Yeah, and I haven't done that in a while.
Yeah.
Because all my stuff's been here. So I think that's why it's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm just selling a bunch of stuff. You know, I have visitors coming this weekend too, so I don't want to start packing and then, you know, pack something that they need or whatever it might be. So I don't want to pack too soon where I can't live out of my house, but I also don't want to. I'm also going to LA right before I move too. I kind of planned this really poorly, if you couldn't tell.
Yeah, it's tough to try to pack, but then also try to continue to live your life.
Exactly. Like, in the past, I was like, oh yeah, I can definitely handle all of this. And now I'm here living it, and it'll still be fun. It'll be fine. I'm just a list type of girl, and my list is very long right now.
Yeah.
So.
I think it helps sometimes, at least for me, moving wise, just to take it like one step at a time.
I know.
Like one box at a time, and be like, I have to pack a box this week. I don't have to move everything and pack all my stuff up. I should just get one box done this week.
Yeah.
So I've been doing that kind of.
Yeah, how have you been feeling?
I'm not totally stressed out about moving. I have like 2 boxes packed. I feel like I'm not going to need that many.
Mm-hmm.
They're taped up already, so I'm not getting back into those boxes. And then I'm just going to live off of what I have out now. And just continue to put more stuff in. Like, it's easy. It's like winter stuff. Am I going to need winter stuff when it's 95 degrees every single day right now? Probably not. So I feel good right now about just getting closer to moving and just taking it incrementally instead of all at once.
My roommate and I did find and got approved for our apartment, though. Literally.
Yeah, congrats.
Monday. And you know how stressed I was about that. So that was a big weight off of my shoulders, which I feel better about. At least I know I'm moving to the city and not back home.
Yeah.
So that helped a lot, stress-wise.
Yeah. You've had a tougher time than I have, for sure, finding a place, getting ready to go. I feel like, so I know we did like that whole like moving and finding a new place episode. Like, what do you think your experience was this time? How was it different than it was the first time?
It was so different because when I was looking for a place in Denver, I was living in Colorado. So it was so easy for me to go to the city and tour places. This time around, I lived in Denver and I was moving to Chicago. So I couldn't do any of those in-person tours. Like, I never was going home. So that obviously was a huge difference. I couldn't see any of the places in person. My roommate, thankfully, was there, so she did take some videos, and, you know, that obviously helped, but I'm still not seeing the place until I move in, which is a little bit scary. Mm-hmm. But I know it'll work out. I feel like just going to the units and physically being there and talking to realtors in person is so much more effective than, you know, bugging them over email, constantly emailing them back and forth or texting them.
They can way easier like ignore you.
Exactly.
If you're just emailing them instead of you like being in their office or like talking to them or being on the phone with them.
Because that's literally how I got the place that we're sitting in right now. The place I've lived in this whole year is I kept coming to the leasing office every single morning right when I woke up. Mm-hmm. Or I guess arrived to work, whatever it was. And bug them asking if there's a 2-bed, 2-bath apartment I can lease. And they were like, no. And finally one day they were like, yes. So definitely a different experience, which I know every experience will be different. So it was good to add that to my apartment resume.
Checked off?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's nice. It seems like you're getting most of the boxes checked by now. I mean, I think we moved in like 17 days or something, like really soon. So it's coming up.
It is.
I'll be driving all the way back I'll be driving to Chicago from Denver, which is going to be a pretty daunting drive by myself. But we'll see how it goes. There's a lot of really cool stuff to see on the drive back too. So I'm really excited about that.
No, there's not. A lot of dead animals and policemen and...
corn. Yeah. But I really like corn, so...
You should do what Parker told us about that silent retreat and just do that silent retreat the whole way back.
Yeah, but I think I would just fall asleep probably.
Probably.
Because at some point, when I start getting tired while I'm driving, I like turn the music up louder. Mm-hmm. Because
to wake you up.
Yeah.
I even do that when I'm driving with other people.
Yeah, exactly. So that's not a place you want to fall asleep.
No. Everyone wish Lex good luck on that drive.
I'm sure I'll be fine. But yeah. So I don't know. I'm trying to think of anything else that happened to me this week. Not much. It's getting like extreme temperatures here.
It's awesome.
It's nice, but like it's now too hot.
Yeah.
It reaches a point in the summer where like it didn't get warm till like May, and then now it's way too warm.
It's like 90s. For
it's
us,
like
that's
95.
Hot.
It's like 95.
That's hot for us. I know in like California and Texas it's like 110. Like I would die. That would not be
no way.
Happy. This I'm fine with. Like I still like working outside. It's nice. I did get burnt the other day.
I don't like working outside.
I do.
Like it just like like if I have my laptop on my lap, it heats up in 2 minutes. Mm-hmm. And then it feels like there's about to be a fire in my lap. But I don't know. It is getting pretty hot out here. Other than that, the weather's been pretty good though.
In 6 months, we're going to be complaining about the Chicago winter, so I'm going to take it while I can.
Could be worse. What do you, all right. I mean, you want to get into the topic, or what are we thinking?
Yeah. I guess another exciting little piece of news is Lex and I just finished celebrating our 3-year anniversary, which in my head is a huge milestone because it not only represents 3 years of being together, but we also, for those of you that don't know, we did 2 years of long distance, and then this was our first year of short distance. So we kind of celebrated accomplishing our first year of being in a short distance relationship, which is a lot different than being in a long distance relationship, as you can imagine. So we thought it would be kind of cool to talk about our experience with long distance and, I don't know, maybe share some advice, experiences, and, you know, how we dealt with it, navigated it. Obviously, we're not pros, but it is something we both obviously experienced in our lifetime pretty recently, too. So, and I feel like, you know, obviously Lex and I are in a romantic relationship, but you could also see long-distance relationships in families. Like, I'm doing that, or we're both doing that right now with friendships. Ansley was on a few weeks ago now, and, you know, we do long distance as well. So it doesn't have to be just a romantic relationship. I think it could be any relationship you have, and it's hard. So we just wanted to bring that topic up to discuss.
Yeah, it's really hard. I think what's interesting about the way we started was I don't think a lot of couples start long distance and go to short distance.
Yeah.
I feel like, I could be wrong, but I do feel like it's more common to start short distance and then move into long distance.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the long distance, the 2 years that we did do long distance might have been easier because we didn't know what it was like to do short distance.
Right. We kind of went into it blindsided a little bit because we also never did a long distance relationship with anyone else either, you know. So it was our first time with both things.
So that is one thing I wanted to touch on was it was a first time, and looking back on it, I don't know if I totally knew what I was getting into.
No. And I think we both knew that going into it. We didn't know what to expect. And I think that's why we committed to it in a way. In a naive way.
Yeah.
You know
you have that conversation where you're like, oh, it's going to be tough. Right. But we can get through it. But, yeah, I think it was tougher than what I was expecting.
Oh, 110%. I mean, like most things, you can assume and you can ask other people their experiences, but once you're actually living it and it becomes your life, it's a whole different story. And I mean, yeah, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It does suck. But I think also a benefit of it is we did, I guess, because of doing long distance, we have this really strong foundation that we built through doing long distance to now, which I can tell a lot now looking back on the 2 years of long distance, the 1 year of short distance. We do definitely have a strong foundation. And that's built on trust, communication, quality time, like a bunch of different things that I feel like I can look back on now and realize, you know, these were actually the benefits coming out of something that was really shitty at the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I totally agree. I think it brings with it a lot of challenges, a lot of hurdles. But if you're able to get over those hurdles, it does create a nice foundation, like you said, a nice, just strong unit there to build off of afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Which has been going well so far. So, I guess we could get into, you know, like why did we start doing long distance? What kind of pushed us in that direction? And I think, first and foremost, it was that we didn't go to the same school.
Right.
And everybody was at home for COVID,
mm-hmm.
which made it easier to be together, but we didn't go to the same school. And neither of us, I don't think, were planning on switching schools.
No.
So, essentially, that was our only option.
Right.
And I did know a few of my friends who were doing the same thing. I did know a couple people who were in the same position. So I did know it was possible, and it was worth trying. Mm-hmm. Which is, I think, what gave me the confidence to say yes in the first place.
I guess I'm speaking for myself, but also I know, because we talked about this, you too, when we kind of started talking and getting into a more serious relationship, at that point in my life, I did not expect to get into a relationship of any kind, let alone a long-distance relationship. But I do agree, it was not even in the conversation of, we were going into junior year of college. Neither of us were going to transfer. We both really loved our schools, and we both were really happy for each other and wouldn't have asked that of each other either. So, yeah, it was kind of a weird time because it was not only COVID, but then we also obviously got into a relationship and then had to deal with getting into a long-distance relationship. But I do have to say we have been really lucky with COVID because junior year, no one was flying. For those of you who don't know, I was in Colorado and Lex was in Indiana. So it was a flight. It wasn't just a 2-hour drive type of thing. But we did really put in a lot of effort, I believe. And we flew to each other pretty often during COVID or while we could because we also were both remote or mostly remote, hybrid-ish. So it was nice because I remember this one time I was flying into Indy. I was going to say Bloomington. Indy, and my round trip was $25 round trip. That's unheard of now. So of course,
the COVID prices were crazy.
Yeah, we surprised each other a lot. So looking, and I saw that, of course I'm going to come for the weekend, And a lot of times I would just extend to the weekdays just because I would bring my computer and be able to take classes from where you were. So that was nice. That was definitely helpful. But I think we both really put in effort and we're willing to compromise, our worlds to go see each other. Because I feel like in normal relationships, you have your world together. In a way, obviously you always have your own life, but in a relationship, you create this world together.
Yep.
And long distance, you literally live in two different worlds. You have your lives, and then you also have your two different worlds. And then you have to, communicate and make that long-distance world work, too.
Yeah. No, definitely.
I don't know if that makes sense, but
no,
if you're following.
Yeah, and essentially, you kind of just have a relationship with your phone.
Yeah.
And so, it was interesting just because majority of the time I'd be trying to, live, be present in where I was.
Exactly.
And try to enjoy myself, but also having to realize that the relationship that I was in was majority, through my phone. So, my phone became more important and more, I needed it more.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was an interesting way to kind of go about things just because you wanted to be present, but sometimes I felt like it would take you out of the present as well.
I completely
out
agree.
Of the scene that you were in, right out. Even if it was class or something.
Right.
It was the same. It was kind of the same way. It was just being on your phone a lot and just being responsive. And it's because I'm not, now being in a short distance relationship, it's I don't love to be on my phone very much, and I deleted every social media, almost, besides Snapchat, and I'm really, enjoying that, and that's kind of how I've decided to go about, that's kind of how I want to treat my phone, and so that relationship with my phone, I think, helped me realize that I don't want to be on my phone as much.
Right.
Which, it was really interesting for me.
The phones are definitely a blessing, but also a curse, because I get what you're saying. Obviously, being present, especially throughout college and senior year specifically, you want to be with your friends, you want to be with your roommates, you want to be in the moment, you want to experience all those things and capture that forever. But at the same time, you're right, the only way we can communicate is on our phones. And we're lucky too to have, FaceTime and social medias to get that face to face.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't imagine, doing long distance and sending letters. And it wouldn't get
or like
there
a
for
rotary
weeks.
phone, and you had
Right.
to like go find a phone, a landline phone.
So I understand what you're saying, but at the same time, I'm like, thank God we have FaceTime.
Yeah, it was nice because you could be in constant communication anywhere,
Right.
anytime.
Yeah.
And I could see it definitely being crazy hard not to have that. Like maybe 20 or 30 years ago when cell phones didn't even exist, that must have been impossible.
Yeah, speaking of, I guess we can talk about some of the things we tried to do while we were in long distance just to keep that quality time or, relationship alive. And
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. It was interesting because I think at first we didn't necessarily have anything that was like set in stone. It was kind of just like talk when you can and try to do it as often as you can. And I think we started to slowly realize that it was tough to always be on a similar schedule. So, like, first of all, the time difference is 2 hours.
I was about to say, you have to mention the time difference.
Yeah, so I guess the time difference was huge. And I'm sure a lot of people don't deal with time difference, but a lot of people probably do as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would always be 2 hours ahead. You'd always be 2 hours behind. So having to figure out those schedules, because 2 hours doesn't sound like that much, but you're kind of in different zones, especially when you're going throughout school and you're on a schedule, and then like right after the schedule is like, all right, it's like hang out with your friends or do whatever. And so you do end up being on different schedules. And it kind of feels like you're in two different worlds almost.
It is. It's so weird, too, because even though we did short distance for a year now, anytime you're away, doesn't matter where you are, it could be Chicago, it could be Tokyo, for some reason in my head, I still count 2 hours difference.
Yeah, so Japan was definitely more than that.
Yeah, obviously. But it's like I don't know, it's just stuck with me. So I always assume you're 2 hours away. So it's like 6 p.m. here. I'm like, oh, it's 8 for Lex. Yeah. It's so weird. I just realized that now. I'm like, it's always, I feel like Lex is 2 hours away.
You get used to the math.
Yeah.
It's interesting because now I'm on Colorado time. A lot of my friends are on East Coast, Eastern time. So I'm always doing the math forward now. So I could see how you can get used to that.
But I guess other things we try to do, yeah, you're right. What you said earlier is like going into it, we didn't have a plan. It was more just go with the flow, see what happens. We also didn't, we had to learn each other's schedules and, in a way, figure out when the best time to talk was. But that obviously became really crucial in a relationship, is at least trying to get on the phone and physically talk to each other at least once a day. It just made a world of difference. Texting, you don't actually see their face or hear their voice. At least calling on the phone, FaceTiming, whatever it may be, you can see them, hear them. So for me, that was huge. And I know, obviously, it was huge as our relationship grew and as we realized really what we needed in it. And obviously, like, with friends, too. I call Ann's at least twice a week, if not more. Same with my family. So, again, phones are really awesome. And then I guess other random things we would do is if we had time or just weren't going out or whatever, we would like utilize the COVID. What are they called? Like Netflix had a TV room. You can like send a link.
Yeah, it was like a share watching share.
Be able to watch the same movie.
Yeah, so it didn't really work that well though.
We tried.
Yeah.
Or we'd like be on FaceTime and have both our computers set up with the same movie and be like, okay, 3, 2, 1.
That honestly worked better.
Which is so sad, but it's funny. Like, that's what we did.
Yeah. No, that worked better. And I think we learned, as I was saying, that we didn't go in with a plan. And I think we learned that it was all just about adapting.
Yeah.
And so, like, finding things that we could do together, because there's not a whole lot you can do together when you're not together.
Right.
So that was something at least we could control and do together. And then, yeah, it was it was hard to find things that we could do together, especially since we would be on different schedules all the time. It was like our times would only line up really at night.
Exactly.
So that was like pretty much the activity that you had available to you, or like maybe like a game or something.
Yeah, we did play games every once in a while.
It was all about just adapting to the situation and like adapting to being flexible, being open,
and putting the effort in. It is a sacrifice because once again, different time zones. Like if your friends were going out but you didn't feel like it, or vice versa. Or I could have been watching a movie with my roommates, but instead I was watching one with you. So it's definitely a sacrifice in itself as well. If you guys love gold jewelry as much as I do, you have to check out Slide Jewels. Slide Jewels is a jewelry brand that crafts contemporary and affordable pieces from high-quality stainless steel. From earrings, necklaces, rings, and bracelets, Slide has pieces for everyone. Use code TOSOMEEXTENT to get 30% off your purchase. Links and promo code will be in the show notes, so check it out. When we choose a topic for the podcast, I do like to do some research and just see what's out there already. And it's weird because when you look up how to navigate a long-distance relationship, does it work, whatever it might be, a lot of what they say is repeated. And, people find them cliche, but a reason a cliche is because it's true and it obviously works. And it's not something everyone likes to hear. You want to hear something different. So I kind of want to get into the cliches and talk about why they're true in a long-distance relationship.
Okay.
So the main one is communication, obviously. That's kind of the standard for any relationship in the world is you need to communicate. But the reason it's so important in a long-distance relationship is because you're not there. So all you have is communication to lean on. And I don't know, when you read through those articles, it's like just communicate, text every day, call every day, the standard. When I'm saying communication, I'm saying get to know that person's whole world and understand how they feel and understand where they're coming from and respect their lives too. I
think you need to anticipate what they're already thinking. You need to get to that point, maybe. It's like you're communicating so well back and forth that eventually you can just kind of anticipate how they may respond, react, because you've been through a lot of their reactions, their responses.
Yeah.
And
you
eventually, and you start to pick up on that stuff. And if you're communicating well enough, eventually you'll get to a point where you kind of anticipate what the reaction is going to come out as.
Yeah.
Based off of the past and what is you've learned from your mistakes, I guess, or your faults of communication.
I know, it definitely is hard communicating with someone else and relying on someone else as part of your world too, especially when they're not physically there. But I really do believe communication is really how we got through it, and telling each other how we feel. And that was really hard for me personally because I'm a type of person in the past, I don't like to tell people how I feel. I want them to already know. And I've realized doing long distance, you're not a mind reader. Neither am I.
Is.
You know what I'm saying? You don't know when I'm upset, especially when we're not physically there together. Obviously, okay, I could be mad and put on an angry face and pouty. But when you're in Indiana and I'm in Colorado, you can't see that. So I had to learn to tell you when I'm upset and why. Yeah. It's one thing to tell someone you're upset, but it's another to say why. And that's huge in a lot of relationships, and it's hard. I know it sounds so dumb, but it really is hard to do. To admit that you're upset over something. And to tell that person.
To admit something has affected you.
Right, I'm upset you didn't text me back at da-da-da time. whatever it may be.
Yeah.
It's definitely hard, but it made, one, us fight less, and two, be able to trust each other and, you know, rely on each other to be able to be open.
Yeah. No, I think I agree with that. And it all came kind of down to building a new kind of trust between each other. And that took a lot of pre-communication, just like a lot of communication to just build up like that trust of like, we can like trust that, you know, both of us are still in this, both of us are still a part of this relationship.
Right.
And it takes a long, long time to build that up.
It does.
But it takes a really short time to break it down.
Yeah.
Really quickly, you can mess up a lot of the work that you put in.
And I feel like that applies to any relationship, not just long distance, but especially long distance.
It's like, yeah, it was like building a house out of like straw. And you built it really, really, really sturdy. But one gust of wind can still knock it down. And yeah, you learn that pretty quickly too.
Yeah. It's definitely a total new learning experience in every single way. Which could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. But, yeah. I mean, yeah, that's the communication part, is just being open and honest with each other. Which, it sounds so easy when I'm saying it, but I'm, like, remembering putting myself in those shoes, like, way back when. It was so hard to be, you know, it was hard. It really is. And then, kind of you touched on, another part and another cliche is obviously trust. Which, going into this, again, we were blind. Like, we were literally blind. We didn't know what to expect. We kind of just went into it, went with the flow, and trust is all that's there. You know, and like you said, you build it. It goes down, you build it back up. But I really, truly think that all those things have made our foundation for our relationship so much stronger.
Yeah. One thing I will add was, I think having certain points in time to look forward to was big. School was nicer in that instance just because there's certain set breaks that a lot of the time line up for certain holidays, for just breaks in general, like spring break or fall break. And so having those to look forward to like kind of go back home and like do a little short distance for a while was definitely helpful. And I think it was like taking it, you know, not looking at it at the start and being like, all right, we have to do 2 years of this. It was looking at like, all right, let me get to fall break and we'll see where we're at.
Right.
All right, I'm at fall break. Yeah, I think this can still go well. Let's get to Thanksgiving break and see where we're at.
It's like a little light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah. And so
each time.
It was more like piecing it together in that way. And I know like every relationship doesn't have that school aspect where you have those breaks to be together. But just finding those little parts of time that you can look forward to every now and then to be like, hey, as long as I hold on till here, we can figure it out. Right. Or I can reassess and see how things are going. But I also would recommend not putting your feelings and like, I guess, mental health on the back burner. Like, continue to like reassess yourself and look at, how is this impacting me? How is this impacting the way I'm going about the rest of my life too? Mm-hmm. And just assessing that every once in a while to make sure that you're not in it for, I don't know, another reason. Yeah, exactly. You're there because you still want to be there, and because at the end of the day, it's your choice.
Right.
And you put yourself in this situation, and you can get out of that situation. That is also your choice.
Right.
So I think asking myself those questions and having the same answer over and over and over again was kind of the reason I was able to, I guess, in my opinion, in my experience, was able to get through the tougher times.
And I guess kind of going off that, like, you learn a lot about yourself. You learn a lot about yourself in any relationship, but I feel like I learned a lot about myself and what I needed in a relationship based on what we did, which was really cool and I think beneficial for the rest of my life. Love language is always talked about when talking about relationships, and I didn't really know what mine was. Quickly realized it's physical touch, but when you're in a long-distance relationship, that doesn't work. So you kind of have to pull in something else that makes up for that. And for me, it was words of affirmation, or I guess like reassurance. And I mean, you know this, but anytime I wasn't getting that or didn't feel as confident as I should have, I would ask for reassurance from you, and vice versa. So I guess learning a lot about yourself and learning what you need in relationships is really, really helpful.
Yeah, and going off that point of learning about yourself, a lot of the struggles that you deal with in a long distance relationship, at the end of the day, you're all by yourself.
Right.
And you're like, physically there's nobody else there but you going through that, because your partner's not there. So it really turns you into your head and just forces you to deal with issues on your own. And then you figure out, all right, by myself, like, how do I deal with these issues? How do I process these situations that are thrown at me all the time? How do I process these feelings? Is it different? Is it the same? And so that was super interesting, just learning about all these different feelings and how I would deal with them. And then being like, all right, that was a terrible way to deal with that. What can I do next time to make sure I don't have the same reaction, or I don't feel the same way?
Right.
And then I was like, all right, like, other times it'd be like, wow, I actually think that kind of worked. And you start building off that. You're like, all right, I'll try that. I'll do that again next time. And then, like, what else can I add to, really make the situation better? I don't know. It's a ton of, like, self-introspection that I don't think I would have had if I didn't do that.
Which is, I'm grateful to be able to look back on situations that, long distance, and be able to realize that that's what we were learning. Even though it sucked in that moment, taking a step back and realizing all these good things really did come out of it. Obviously, yes, short distance is the main one, but also all these little lessons that you learn about yourself, you learn about your partner, you learn about life. It's great. So I think that I also learned a lot of independence too, like how to be independent in a relationship, because I feel like a lot of people become codependent on their person, which is completely okay, but it's nice to have that independence as well.
Yeah, true.
Especially at such a young age, and in college or wherever, even in life right now, it's nice to like have things that I can do just on my own, and that you can do just on your own, and that we can do. Like, I still have a friend group just to myself, even though you're still friends with them. Like, those are my friends. You know what I'm saying? It's nice to have that, because sometimes, I don't know, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it could be. Codependency is like a big thing, Yeah. So independence in a relationship definitely was something else I learned, and that I still value.
Yeah.
Even though we're here together.
Yeah. Definitely. And I think I tend to be someone who, like, I like to be independent sometimes. It's just kind of like the way I process things, just like a little bit I need to have a little bit of independence just every once in a while to, take a step back and just, it's nice to just take a step back and re-look at things and just look at things from like a wider view. And so I think that was nice. Sometimes maybe there's a little too much independence, but I think you're right. I think it is nice to establish that in the beginning of our relationship was like, all right, we have no choice but to be independent.
Right. So
it's not, I don't think, like, after you've established that for 2 years, it's hard to to lose it because you've already, like, we know what it's like to also have our own things.
Our own lives, our own worlds. And now they're together, which is crazy too. Mm-hmm. No, again, there's so many emotions, there's so many situations, but there's also a lot of benefits that do come out of long distance. I guess there was kind of two parts to this. Is we went through long distance, we came out and did short distance. Should we talk about how we navigated going from short distance or long distance to short distance? Sorry, I'm getting my words confused.
Yeah, I think. To be honest, to me, it wasn't like a crazy hard transition or anything. It was something that obviously we were looking forward to, and so went into it excited. And I think it was a little bit of a transition just to, like we talked about earlier, just going from being super independent a lot of the time to having someone around a lot of the time.
Right.
But I don't think it was like I think if you're in a long distance relationship, I don't think it's worth worrying about what the transition into short distance is going to be like. Mm-hmm. That was just my opinion, because I don't think it was like something to worry about. I guess it was just like a little bit of a little change to me. But what do you think?
I guess, sorry, to take a step back real quick, when you talked about we had like a light at the end of our tunnel, I want to touch on that. Like, we did communicate that we didn't want to do long distance anymore. We wanted to end up in the same city at least, or state at least. That was a big change for us because we were in separate states. So we did talk about that a lot, and that was in both of our plans because, after graduation, for us, our next step was to get a full-time job. So we were, trying to make that happen, and we did successfully, thank God. But I just wanted to say, like, that was in our conversations together. Some people, they don't know when the next time they could be together. Like, their careers are apart. Mm-hmm. So I guess for us, we talked about it. We wanted to be together. Like, was our goal. So it was easier to see that light at the end of the tunnel and be able to, like, go get it. Mm-hmm. Step closer, and every single day it was closer and closer and closer. But to go off what you were just saying, I was nervous. I was so nervous. I don't even know if I've told you this, but, like, I was kind of freaking out because as much as long distance sucked, it was working. You know what I mean? After 2 years, I'd hope we were kind of in, I don't want to call it a routine, but I don't even want to say comfortable either, but it was working, and I was so nervous, but I'm also just a worrier, Yeah. You know me. I was nervous that we'd get to the same state and it wouldn't work, or
it's a possibility.
It wasn't as great as I thought it would be,
Yeah, that's fair.
All these little things, obviously it was fine. It's great. Couldn't complain, but I was nervous. Like, you always have those fears, like, what if? I don't know. I guess I didn't want to lose that independence, and I just didn't know how we would be together. So we knew each other growing up too, so it's not like I didn't know you and that you were like a stranger, but we've never lived in the same state and in our adult lives, I guess. We're going through two different transitions. One's in our lives and, like, with our careers and getting out of college, but also for our relationship. So I guess there's just a lot of transitions going on.
Yeah.
And I was nervous for all of them.
Yeah. It was just a time of change everywhere going on around.
Yeah.
From my point of view, it was just easier to kind of take it as it came. And I think there was just so much going on, it was hard for me to worry about stuff in the future because there was just stuff going on all the time, like in the present. Mm-hmm. And so I know, yeah, obviously it sounded like you worried about it a little bit, but to me, I wasn't worried. I was like, it'll work itself out. I sometimes have this trust that, life is going to work out the way it should work out, and it'll work out how it's supposed to be. And I don't know, there's some like blind confidence once you get towards this hypothetical end where it felt like, all right, if we're about to make it through 2 years of this, like it's about to get way easier and less stressful. Which
it did.
Yeah. And so there's a reason why we made it through all of this, I think. So that was my point of view. I was just like trying to be as positive as I could about it.
Yeah, which is good. You're always so much more positive.
Yeah, I guess, but I don't know. That's just kind of the way I am, I guess. I'm not always positive, but I try to be.
I guess it was cool. Like, it was weird at first. I don't know how you feel, but for me it was weird being able to text you and just be like, want to come over? Because that never was a thing. Unless we were home. But it was so different. It was different.
Yeah.
Like, we could never just hang out on a school night, work night, and now we do. You know? But it is nice because we have a big friend group, but we still have, like, time where you have time with the boys and I have time with the girls, and it's nice to still have those times alone, in a way. Not saying I don't like hanging out with you.
No.
Again, independence.
Yeah.
And whenever we're gone, I find it way, okay, I cry every time Lex leaves because that's just how I am. But it's way easier because I know the next time I'll see you. Like, when we did long distance, I didn't know the next time I would see you.
Yeah.
So all those goodbyes were really, really hard.
Yeah.
Now they're slightly easier because I'm like, okay, he's going to come home in a week or 2 weeks or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So that's a lot easier and feels good.
Yeah, fair. I think that also, yeah, I guess translates to me as well. I don't tend to worry as much as you do. So
yeah, we know.
I'm like looking back on it now, like reevaluating the way I handled it. I was never thinking like about these worries as much as you were, I think. And I guess ignorance is bliss at some point, right? Because maybe it was easier because I wasn't worrying about that stuff as much. But I don't know. I think, now it definitely is different. And I think what's funny is I've noticed, like, once now, like, I don't know, we've been in the same spot for a while. When we leave and are apart again, I feel like we don't, like, utilize what we, like, try to work on while we were doing long distance. It's kind of like, all right, we've done long distance way too much. Like, we know what this is all about.
I really think it's because we have that foundation, though.
Yeah.
It's like the trust is already there. The communication's already there. Like, you know.
Yeah, so it's...
Like, I don't need you to text me 24/7 when you're wherever you are.
Yeah, which is funny because that wasn't how it was when we were not together, but when we're on trips and vacations, now it's, all right, just have fun and do you.
I think it's because I know you're going to come back, too.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You know? At least for me.
Yeah.
And, Lex does do a good job of, you know, you can look at long distance being this really negative thing, and it is, but you do a good job of looking at the positives and really have taught me to look into the positives of them all. And all the lessons and all the good things. The yin and the yang.
Yeah. Sometimes life's easier when you just look at the positive side.
Something I'm working on, you guys. I guess I kind of want to, I know we talk, like, again, I just want to say this applies to every relationship. Doesn't have to be long distance. It doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. I'm mostly just talking about our relationship just because that's what we experience. But again, I do this with my family. I do this with my best friend who lives in Nashville, you know, other people too. It's all kind of the same thing.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I think we covered a ton of bases.
Yeah, I hope you guys were following. I feel like I kind of just rambled.
Yeah, we were kind of just
into
all over
the mic
place
today.
Yeah, that happens. I think, yeah, maybe we work on getting a little more structure. But whatever, it's kind of how the conversation flows, whatever is on our mind. So.
If you do long distance, I have so much respect for you. And you can do it.
Yeah.
You can do it.
Oh, yeah. So, I wish everybody luck if you're listening to this and you're also going through something similar. It's not easy. Keep some faith, though, because it could work out as well.
Be like Lex. Look at all the good in the negative. Find the good.
I feel like now I'm going to have positive takes all the time.
Yeah, Lex is the good cop. I'm kind of like the bad cop. I'm not bad.
No, I don't think you're bad. I just, like, now people are like, oh, he looks at the positive side all the time. But that is not true. I just try. Sometimes it's hard to see.
Yeah, I guess I was just telling you how I feel.
Yeah. All right. You want to wrap this up?
Yep. Well, thanks for tuning in this week again. And let us know if you want to hear about any topics that you're interested in. And we'd love to get your feedback. Always
that'd be awesome.
To it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday.